reach nowhere, so you have to find a way. Them no want you reach nowhere, so you have to find a way. Them no want to see you rich, them will love to see you in a ditch. Them no want to see you on tour, them no want you get more, so get more. Show them you not afraid them, one load them. Every human have a something that them destined. That is your destiny, so be what you ought to be. Even if no want you reach nowhere, so you have to find a way. Them no want you reach nowhere, so you have to find a way. Them no want to see you fly, them no want to see you touch sky, them no want to see you fly. Hey. Bling bling, now me call it King Kong. Every song I write, it's song. Every song I write, it's song. Tell me something, am I wrong? To believe in myself, put nobody above myself. Energy, build your energy. Love, charity, what a sight to see. What a colossal. Working and working to prosper. What you gonna stop for? Keep on, it's right on the corner. Hey, make way when I'm weird there. Hey, tell it you to them stay there. Hey, that is your destiny, to be what you ought to be. Even if no one you reach nowhere, so you have to find a way. Them no one you reach nowhere.
Yes, good night, everybody. It's about that time. It's 7 o'clock. And this is two short little things to deal with. We're going to get into Pat. We're going to look at the alternative that is being presented by one of the NRP politicians and see what gain and what makes sense and what is nonsense, what is good politics and what is not. And outside of that, we got a small little thing with the Boundaries Commission that I would like to bring up. But before all of that, first thing what we're going to deal with is the fact that Manchester City beat Arsenal. Manchester City beat Arsenal in a final yesterday. Score was 2-0. Arsenal was team. Arsenal didn't look threatening as usual. Give me 1 second. Yeah, I had to respond to it there. But anyway, so Arsenal was team. It's only one team was trying to play football, and the team who was trying to play football ended up winning a football game. Shocking. Who would have known that? Now, to be clear, it's a small trophy, but you got to be happy at the times when you could be happy. And it's not necessarily about winning the trophy and telling you it's a big trophy, but it's about the fact that you deny a particular set of fans, specifically Arsenal fans, some of the most annoying fans you would meet, except for Clyde. Clyde, I gonna take it easy by you, for sure. But outside of Clyde and couple others, I gonna give a couple. Yeah, one of my partner them is an Arsenal man, so I gonna give couple. But outside of them, there, no, we're very happy that Arsenal ain't win a cup. They continue to go more years without one. I think it's more than two since then they for a cup in the year. Me only went 2 years, and that was too long for me. So I'm happy Long time I know, Manchester City close, but I'm gonna wear them, and I'm gonna feel happy at least for this week. Never mind last week, then get broken in the Champions League, but they had to. But that's a conflict of interest. So let me move on from that. Just know that a happy City win something at least for the year is good to get something. Okay, moving on from that, there is a lot of confusion in the air. Certain things with regards to what's going on with the banking situation. One of them that I have noticed and I've tried to cover at least what's going on in the cannabis laws extensively. So I feel like I got a good grip on the situation. Nonetheless, there are some confusions as to what is going on with the cannabis law, specifically with regards to what happened when the law was held to be unconstitutional. I have heard various persons say that because the law was held to be unconstitutional, that the constitution needs to change. I would like you to please understand that that is not what the judgment is saying. Even if you read the judgment, all of the following language, maybe not specifically, but they will be in there. What happens is the Constitution is the supreme law of St. Kitts and Nevis. Therefore, there is no other law that is more powerful than the Constitution. This means that if the Constitution gives you a right, the Parliament cannot go and pass a law that will infringe or hinder those rights. In this specific case, we're speaking about it would have been the Drugs Act, particularly Section 6.2 and I think 7.2. Trafficking was not considered in this particular case, but just the possession of cannabis and the cultivation. The case I'm speaking about specifically is the Sankofa case. Now, the fact that they found those sections that I mentioned to be offensive because they hinder or infringe upon the rights does not mean that the Constitution has to be amended. That is not the effect of the judgment. The effect of the judgment, since the Constitution is the supreme law of the land, is that the laws themselves have to be amended so that, let me see. Okay. The laws themselves have to be amended so as to come into conformity, so as to protect the rights of the particular individual or class of individuals, etc., etc. So the amendment that the judgment refers to has nothing to do with an amendment to the Constitution. That is a separate mechanism which is governed by separate laws. I see people saying, referring to different governments which could have done it. That's not the case. And to make it clear, Malvern, who win his case again from the police for how they, I think, stood on him in a drain. Malvern won his case, and his case also had to do with constitutional rights. The fact that Mali won his case did not mean that the constitution have to be amended. It is merely an acknowledgement that the constitutional rights were, in fact, hindered, abridged, violated any of these descriptions are accurate. You know. Yeah, people are calling. So I just trying. I'm hope I'm being clear so that persons could understand when a particular statute, it could be any statute, is found to be unconstitutional. That does not mean that the constitution has to change. It means the statute itself has to change. The government itself took their time, but at this particular moment in time, they have gotten around to making amendments as they see fit. So, for example, when we speak about the fact now that if you have 56 grams, the most you could is a ticket for persons who do not have a license. And this is still factual. Unless you have a license under one of the relevant statutes, you they do not have the ability to take away your cannabis. But the police could rate you up for a $50 ticket right now in St. Christopher and Nevis. That's the situation that is going on. With regards to the deficiencies that I see, I have spoken and said that until there are clear rules for the recreational use, there will continue to be blurred lines. You will see Rastafarians pop up. You will see persons who have seizure, they got headache, they don't sleep well at night, they got nausea, they need something to stimulate the eating. All of these various things are going to be used under the medical aspect and, well, under the freedom of conscience aspect. In that regard, I feel like there needs to be some clarity with regards to the five trees and with regards to the amount that you could have in private. I know that they have spoken to how much you could have in public, but how much you could have in private still for me becomes a trick because even if you would want to suggest, because we had a kind of little back and forth last week, and somebody was saying that they do believe that when you're in your privacy, you have the ability to have more than the 56 grams. And at the moment in time, I agreed with them that it was a good interpretation. But we still would have to face the fact that there are trafficking laws in place at the same time. Specifically, if police find you with more than 56 at that moment in time, they will at least have an amount that they could suggest is for trafficking purposes. I do not know specifically how you would confirm that you have a half a pound for personal use. I'm not saying it can happen. I'm saying it becomes a tricky element to this thing. So those are my thoughts on those situations. I I, I hope I know that Nevis people are in fact going to Africa. I was told that my partner don't see one of the hotel rooms. You know, tell me the name of the hotel. I don't get no more information than that. But there is at least one Nevis person in Africa during the contingent, with the contingent. And as far as I am able to understand, this conference is about energy. This conference is about agriculture. And this conference is about health services. When people ask me, because I hear a lot of different criticisms that the prime minister is on the plane, I if the prime minister is able to come back with something substantial, and I do not think an MOU is substantial, we cannot we cannot live in a world where you sign an MOU to accept deportees and you tell me, don't worry, it's a MOU. MOUs are not binding. They are not legally binding. You're basically saying you're not gonna skin in the game. So if you sign an MOU in these different nations, equally, you don't have any skin in the game. You have good intentions. You may have a framework, but I think that we need to endeavor to go a little bit beyond MOUs and to start to get some concrete trade deals, uh, specifically catered to what they're doing. As I said, this is an energy conference. This is geothermal, and different forms of energy, renewable, certainly. This is health, and this is agriculture. So that's that for that. Uh, yeah, let me get to the, the boundaries commission aspect of what's taking place this evening. This is from the Bahamas. I think this is the first time we're going to the Bahamas, but we're going to check out to see what's going on in the Bahamas.
An update on the constituency boundaries report is expected to be tabled sooner rather than later ahead of the 2026 general election. Leah Cooper leads us off tonight.
With a general election expected sometime this year, major changes to constituency boundaries could soon be on the table. The Boundaries Commission, tasked with reviewing electoral districts ahead of the next general election, is expected to table its long-awaited report in the House of Assembly on Wednesday. That much confirmed to us by Boundaries Commission's member, Deputy Prime Minister, the Honorable Chester Cooper, on Tuesday. And if those recommendations are accepted, voters could be heading to the polls under a very different political map. According to our information, the commission is recommending that the...
Okay, so let me pause you and something. So recently, I had a back and forth with the premier on Facebook, much to my shock. I had requested something, and he made a comment, and he said NRP has broken the constitution. And I suggested to the premier, but Mr. Premier, you also break the constitution every single day. And he challenged me, produce evidence that he has broken the constitution. And one of the responsibilities when you are in parliament, one of the constitutional duties and responsibilities is that of being of the boundaries commission. The boundaries commission was started, and the purpose of the boundaries commission is so that the people pick their representative and not the representative pick the people. It is why we do not have the term that is called gerrymandering, because we're supposed to have the boundaries commission, and under the act, I'm saying under the act, under the constitution, I'm sorry, the boundaries commission is tasked with making reports and doing the necessary research to make sure that boundaries on any Commonwealth island, really and truly, are equal. So, for instance, when you find a case where St. John's has 4,000 registered voters. But then you would find a constituency, Charlestown, with significantly less, maybe 2,000. Gingerland, you would find it with significantly less. So the matters in singing, I only can't talk about singers because I'm not familiar specifically with the boundaries in an intimate fashion to be able to speak to you about what is going on in singles. But the Boundaries Commission, and as you see here, they're supposed to report, well, I think in St. Kitts and Nevis is every 5 to maybe like 7 years. And it can definitely have a role on elections. I think that they're gonna do a little breakdown here to show you how drastic a difference it could be at the polling station. And mind you, I do understand and I agree with the decision against Denzel Douglas and what he attempted to do in 2015. I do not think that was a legitimate redistricting, changing of the constituencies. But in this particular arena, I would like to call on my premier to stop offending. Well, I'm not calling him as my premier, as the leader of the opposition, to stop offending the Constitution, to get this group together. This is one of many responsibilities. I might start to do a series where I outline different responsibilities that the leader of the opposition has, because these things, as I say, are intended to bring evenness to constituencies, to ensure over time as things change that there is evenness in the voting. And as I say, because I'm more intimately knowledgeable about Nevis, you could see, for example, circumstances where the other side of the Cuddy Code, who does vote in St. Thomas's, they realistically tongue people. So them supposed to be a vote in the St. Paul's, but they vote in St. Thomas's right now. You could make a similar argument for people over bad, that they're more affiliated with Charlestown. And so they themselves also, a certain portion, should be voting in St. Paul's. Equally, you could come back and you could say everything is fine, everything is lovely. But my overall point is, I would love if this committee did a similar job, did an actual job, a job for which they are paid, and which is to just do the boundaries commission. Boundaries will always be a ticklish issue. It will always be uproar with the changing of boundaries, but it's worse when you're changing it, Joe, before immediate immediately before election. I understand that. And listen, hear what I'm saying? The boundaries commission will come back and tell me everything is fine. Huh? But ultimately, it is the responsibility. And this is also calling on the prime minister because he has a role to play. He has people also to nominate to this commission. So I'm not gonna say this is solely on the leader of the opposition. But you can bring a case against Denzel Douglas in 2015 and say this is illegal. How you trying to change the boundaries, but then be in parliament, whether in power or in the opposition, and not be calling for this constitutional responsibility to be done. And let me tell you something, this is such a slam dunk case, right? That if a citizen was to bring a case, if the Bar Association was to bring a case against the government, stating that the Boundaries Commission has not been doing its job, they would win the case easily. I do not even think that the government would go to trial. Who said that they even tried to do that job there? But um, this is a weakness of, I would say, certainly who hold the power. And the one last thing I'm gonna say before I press play again is that, you know what, I'm gonna save it.
Killarney constituency be split, creating a brand new seat in Western New Providence. According to parliamentary registration statistics, Killarney.
So this is another possibility if the population, well, I don't think it's a possibility for St. Kitts and Nevis really. But if in a situation like, for example, where you got 10,000 new people in one of the islands, it might be possible that you go split or create new constituencies. That's another thing we might go think about.
Is currently one of the largest constituencies in the country, with 7,112 registered voters at the last general election. Of those, 4,882 cast ballots, and former Prime Minister Dr. Hubert Minnis secured victory with 51% of the vote. That's 2,503 votes. But that may not be the only shakeup. We're also told the report proposes combining Bimini and the Berry Islands into a single constituency, removing them from their current groupings with West Grand Bahama and North Andros, respectively. Meanwhile, on New Providence,
It is very important that the Boundaries Commission do their work and put out like real reports within the time frames given so that we could have ongoing conversations, so that we could know what is in their mind. As I'm saying currently, what Denzel Douglas doing in 2015 was wrong. What has equally been wrong is that since that time, no party has taken the initiative to go there and to do it the right way. None of them. And that is a major issue. And it's very similar when you think about it to the cannabis issue. Team Unity was in, this is PAM, this is CCM, this is PLP. Nothing was done on the cannabis front. And Labour is in now, and they have advanced it slightly, and then they kick the can down the road.
polling division is expected to be shifted from Freetown to St. Anne's. Before the change, Freetown had roughly 4,836 registered voters, while St. Anne's stood at 5,416 as of January 2nd, 2026. After the transfer, Freetown would reportedly drop to about 4,400 voters, with St. Anne's climbing to nearly 6,000. These developments follow comments made in November 2024 when Prime Minister the Honorable Philip Davis advised Parliament that the Boundaries Commission could begin its deliberations in early December of that year. The commission is chaired by House Speaker Patricia DeVoe. Its members include Deputy Prime Minister Chester Cooper, Health Minister Dr. Michael Darville, St. Barnabas MP Shannon Cartwright, and Justice Gregory Hilton. If approved, these recommendations could reshape the political battlefield just months before Bahamians return to the polls. ZNS News will continue to follow this developing story. For the
Right now, you couldn't tell me who on the Boundaries Commission in St. Kitts and Nevis. And this leads me into my second perspective. The reason why, okay, well, one of the reasons why there needs to be something done to definitively determine whether you could be both a federal minister and a local minister has to do with the responsibilities in each case. Now, many people would not notice, but for the Nevis Island Assembly and the Nevis local elections, as far as I'm aware, in the Constitution, there is also supposed to be a Constituency Boundaries Commission in Nevis to determine Nevis boundaries. What would happen is, therefore, if you are serving in both, you might have to attend meeting for the Nevis Constituency Boundaries Commission, and you might also have to attend them in a syncus. And this is in addition to other committees and groups which are supposed to be active. For example, the Public Accounts Committee, which is also supposed to be active. In my estimation, if these institutions were active and healthy and were attended to in the right manner, I think it would lead to better results for the country. That's just my feel of how things would go. I feel like these institutions are all in place for different reasons, different purposes, and the fact that we have ministers who have to represent on both sides, I think is a major part of why you don't see any constituency boundaries commission meetings. You don't see anybody saying they want the Public Accounts Committee. All and mind you, being a minister is a very, very hard job. At least if you're doing it the right way. Because in addition to this, you still have to cover all of your ministries, and you also have to be having interministerial meetings where you're meeting with um, other ministers or other ministries. You also got to teach. You got to be able to give some directive to your senior staff in each of these ministries, so everything could filter down. And then you still got to be liaising with the federal government and with other partners. So when you are a minister, when it's just one job, it is supposed to be tremendously difficult. And that is one of the reasons. I don't feel like you're supposed to be able to get away with doing two. Because to do one effectively for the people of Nevis should demand so much of your attention, bearing in mind you also most likely have a life beyond politics. You got a family, you got other things to deal with as well. So it's this is beyond speaking about getting too money and all them kind of thing. I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about the necessary focus and attention and the reality of the amount of time you have in a given day to do whatever task you need to do. It's not feasible in my estimation. One other observation I want to make, and I could tell me how I feel about this. Maybe this could be a conversation. I spoke about how Dr. Joe had moved the cannabis legislation from his purview and he handed it off to the Minister of Agriculture. I I think the other legislation is handed off. Oh well, I don't think I know. Jeffrey Hanley is in control. Jeffrey Hanley, who we can't hear say anything about cannabis, is in charge of that. And then the Drugs Act would be back with Dr. Joe, but that never left. And that's not a direct circumstance. In my estimation, because of the conversation around cannabis and because of the dangers that I hear about, the best scenario, in my estimation, is that cannabis should be under the Ministry of Social Services or Social Development, whatever is the name of that ministry. And that anybody else who need to deal with cannabis, it would be the same thing. They would basically have to have intergovernmental meetings, interministerial meetings between like health and social services or whatever. Because when you think about the dangers that people speak about, it's more than likely, yeah, 9 out of 10 of them are social. I'm not denying the health aspects. I'm not denying the fact that it's a plant. I'm not denying the fact that it has national security implications. All of those people could interface with the Ministry of Social Services. But overall, I feel like this is one of the areas where social services could play a bigger role. They be more human in social services. And if we are saying that the biggest issues this would cause are social problems, it seemed to me like that would be a good move. I would even advocate for the social services to start to do, if they could establish programs. He's a religious man. He never once spoke of cannabis. He probably will be looking at it from religious, and you see, all of these things are why I say, let's put it in social services. I do not know who is the current ministers of social services, but I feel like this is a societal issue. And most of the things I hear is societal issues. I'm not denying any of the rest. I think that different studies could be done and should start to be done. We could we could produce a lot of different interesting results and perhaps even become a little pioneer within the cannabis space. I know Jamaica is in the midst of also doing similar things. I feel like we should also embrace that. It would also open up a different aspect, which is research and development. You know, another social effects you could put in, as I say, health effects. You could collect all kind of statistics, but I feel like social services. Oh my God. Well, you know, I guess nothing would change. But overall, I feel my hope for putting cannabis with social services has less to do with the minister and more to do with the ministry. Somehow, I think the social services department would kick more into gear than these other departments. Anyway, ladies and gentlemen, it's time for Pat. We're going with Pat for the rest of the show. Let me load up the right one. It's not the right one. We're going with Pat for the rest of the show, and we're going to hear what NRP has to offer. Of course, I'm not listening to the whole show. We're going to cut through when they start to talk about the business. If you want to watch the whole show, you don't know it's 2020 vision. But we ain't here for that. So let's start.
Please, in our presence, we have people serving in those critical areas, like the teachers, the doctors, and these are women I'm talking about, nurses, doctors, teachers, police people, those people who are critical in terms of service delivery in our community, and we want to be able to appreciate those people and show our appreciation for these people. So on Friday, we are going to be going around to different institutions where women are.
I think this was a big up to the women's. I think it was Women's Day recently, so that was just a Women's Day big up. Once again, we're not here for all of that. We're here for the business. Let me see if we got any business.
So maybe they might be, at that point in time, maybe they might be returning some kind of profit. But it is not.
Okay, we missed a little bit. Seem like we got into a destiny setting or so. Let me hear what's going on.
When took over, they have not stepped back from their support, and I think that we can appreciate that. And so I wouldn't want it to be said that I didn't reach out to those two gentlemen tonight and extend, the warmest of greetings. And of course, I have my family, friends, home and abroad, and so everybody's included in the greeting to the video, or if you took any part in the video. I know you're into journalism, and I am not here to critique the quality of the video. But the timing I find is rather interesting. Destiny has been sold to us as if it were a savior, because it has been touted as the next best thing, since sliced bread. And the Premier seem to think that is the only savior for Nevis at this point in.
Just one question: Is the Premier wrong for selling Destiny? Wouldn't it be the responsibility of anybody who was in power, if there was if they had a project that they felt passionate about? Wouldn't it be like within your interests and like part of a democracy to try to sell what is going on? And the next thing I would say is, okay, listen, you see, it's because I don't know nothing about the recruitment. But as far as I see, was this video up on the Nevis newscast or so? Was this up on an official governmental channel? Because as far as I know, it's Destiny put up this or not. But it's just a question. No, to be fair, and I spoke about the conflict of interest as far as I said. I'm not gonna be naive and not understand that if the deal goes through and the lands are acquired, the real estate developer, not the developer, the real estate agent is gonna make tens of millions of dollars off the deal. Hence where the conflict of interest lies. But it's reasonable to sell a project, right? I'm not crazy. Anyway.
Time no longer is geothermal considered a game changer, and so it seems as if Destiny is it. Some are still with this high expectation, because in the video I think someone might have referenced the offerings at that time, but they didn't. I don't think that they have since gotten a chance to update, in that they were still happy on the 5% that they were saying that they would give us of an imaginary undisclosed amount of profit, because one knows when you're going to the building phase, you're not likely to return profit on the building phase. Well, we have heard, though, that they're planning to get the lands cheap from us, and then they'll be auctioning the lands. So maybe they might be, at that point in time, maybe they might be returning some kind of profit. But it is.
I mean, I understand the action in the land span. It's a small little thing, just as I understand. It's the purpose of getting the land for whatever price is to show proof that you own the land. So if you actually have the land, to me, you kind of. But anyway,
not likely in what I've heard about the proposal, because we have still not yet seen the proposal and the merits of it. We can't really objectively critique exactly what we're going to get, because we're not seeing it. For some reason, they think that our business is not our business. So our business is not being shared with us. And that is unfortunate. And so we are where we are now. But really, the pie in the sky kind of thing continues. And that video, I was like, where did it come from out of left field? We saw these people parading in front of us. Some of them, I don't even know them from Adam, as my grandmother used to say. I don't know some of these people from Adam, but they're promoting Destiny for Nevis. Quite a handful of them would have been from St. Kitts. I didn't count to see how many, but I can assure you that it was a significant number of persons on on that video who were suggesting that Dennis Destiny and Nevis were together, and I had to put a post that Destiny and Nevis are not together. Destiny has a...
Just to recap why I tell I about a video, like this would have been the video promoting Destiny. That video was not targeted at any opposition politicians. That video wasn't even targeted to people who you would consider they got a little money. The video that was sent to appeal to the masses. Look, an extra $100 in your pocket. And the video that was also to make sure that the masses end up on kind of tell Joe where Dr. Joe want this car. We see that there is some tension, some hesitation in Dr. Joe's hands of we see some hesitation. Dr. Joe prefer to be in Africa than Nevis right now. Think it's a Nevis right now with this thing.
Handful of people behind it for those people who really don't understand what is going on. And I've come to that conclusion, and I'm willing to defend that opinion if given the opportunity to. But I think those people are not well read or not well exposed to exactly what it is Destiny is going to mean to us as a people. And so I would engage those people on a one-on-one basis, I would think, but we're not going to take a lot of time to try to engage them on that, because we don't have a lot of people out there to convince that Destiny is not good for Nevis and that Nevis people don't want Destiny. I'm satisfied in saying, and if it is that they have on the other side, they have information that could refute what I'm saying, then I'm willing to listen. But I would bet that at least 90% of the people in Nevis do not want Destiny, and so until they show me otherwise,
I believe Pat will lose him money. You crazy? 90%.
The poll that they say that they've taken, then I'm going to stick to what I think, my feeling.
If 90% of people do not want Destiny, the premier would be committing political suicide. This would show me that Matt Brownlee has zero political instincts. And I cannot, on the evidence that I have seen so far, believe that is true. Excellent political instinct. So I don't know.
And what, based on my interactions with the people who live on Nevis, not the people who live on St. Kitts necessarily. So.
No, on the flip side, right? If she is incorrect in how we're doing this here, what's taking place here right now, we may have one. Okay, let me put it this way: either NRP or CCM is getting this Destiny thing massively wrong, because CCM has said the majority of people want Destiny. NRP, I tell you, 90% of people don't want Destiny. So somebody's reading of the room is incorrect and is likely to cost them at the poll. 90% too high of a number. Did she speak to you see? And this is where also we may be having echo chambers. So I don't know if she's saying 90% of NRP supporters don't want it. But I don't believe you can find 90% of people. In the one at least small little poll that we saw done, that Dwyer put out in conjunction with somebody else, or somebody did and Dwyer put it out for them, we didn't see that type of numbers, even for that. So, perhaps some hyperbole, but it's not really needed.
Oh, the movie came out, and it reminds me, I think, AI is good enough now that I probably could feed into AI my thoughts on why we are at the point we're at. I've hinted at it before that for one, I don't think that Nevis became broke overnight. Well, we know that Nevis didn't become broke overnight, but I'm not usually geared towards, the conspiracy theory kind of thing, but it is quite unusual to me, the level of reckless spending that was done in the face of all of the recommendations that IMF would have been all along every year would have been tagging certain things, some of our practices or fiscal mismanagement, particularly on NEVIS, and there would have been no recourse, no kind of remedial activity to say, well, let us fix this. We're not going on the right road. IMF keeps saying this, let us fix it. No corrective, action would have been taken during those years. And so it led me to bring, consulting AI, and I'm about to release my movie. And so this is how it was going to look. In my first
Okay. Seems like we're about to get chat GPT analysis of what's taking place. So let me see if and this is one I think when me asked the other day, politicians need to start to talk about the incorporation of AI. Anyway, what if the premier and the other cabinet members showed they have even quarter of the interest efforts into selling the cannabis industry and educating the masses like they are doing for Destiny? See? Well, sir, what we call this is priorities. And not only priorities, political will. No, I I feel like the premier definitely has the political will in certain areas, and it is important to see to note the areas where he got a political will and how far he can go, how convincing he can be when he wants something to go his way. It is very important to know these things. Whereas when it comes to cannabis, he has the political will to speak positively about cannabis. So, talking.
episode, I'm going to lay out the irrational spending that the NIA would have indulged in the past couple of years. And particularly since the 2017 going forward, because since and I would have demonstrated that with the data that I would have presented over I think last year, we would have done, very in detail kind of analysis of that. And so that would be my first episode, going through all the things that they would have done in terms of irrational spending, and I thought that was deliberate. In hindsight, I think that was deliberately done. And the goal, I think, was to bankrupt NDIA. That is my...
Listen. This is Alan personally speaking, okay? And me only tell you how me would do it. I'm not saying what Pat is doing is wrong. I'm saying how I would do it. I always offer two opportunities, two different choices. No, the alternative that I would give to Pat is that they are incompetent. No, it's always someone a little bit sharper to say, then what for they do it? Their aim is to bankrupt the government. Who the hell is gonna benefit from them bankrupting the government? If you're gonna sell me this story, well then you gonna got to also tell me well how this year makes sense at the end of the day, Why bankrupt the goose that laid the golden egg? In my estimation, it's much better to offer that they are incompetent. They just don't know why be them up. You still a cut the same bush, huh? But anyway, just a description. Well, 'cause it's just how I would play it. But we got aggressive.
Theory. That is what my movie is going to be about. In the second episode, we're going to have the importation of the Trojan horse in the form of MSR. And then you remember MSR came in, and then shortly thereafter CBI exploded because of the actions taken by that Trojan horse. And so moving on to my third episode, that would be the introduction of Destiny as a game changer. And so I don't think that any of those episodes would have existed without some calculation, so pre-calculated activity.
Man, I just hate to have to do this correction, but same thing I does to the print and Pat you gonna get the same inspection. CBA couldn't have start to take off when the MSR come. MSR come in a couple of times. CBA don't mean I make money in a long time before he come. So incorrect.
And so I am not accusing any one particular person, but I think the CCM NIA has been complicit in this whole story from the first episode to the third. In that, I think it was deliberately done so that we could get to the point where there would be, even in the face of the resistance from the educated class in Nevis, then at the point now where the premier is.
What the hell is this about resistance of the educated class? What kind of,
Still pushing headlong, without any guardrails. He now wants to plunge us into Destiny's hands as the game changer.
I'm gonna say what I'm gonna say. And listen, I made this observation a couple months ago, and until it seems to me that one of the premier strategies is that he's isolating to say that it's just a pocket full of people got land over there, and all of them full of money, and they might try to keep back everybody progress. Okay? So his plan is to say, well, is the elite still got money land out there, and them are still on the progress. Okay? Cool. Straight. You're gonna rally back now and want to make this thing about how is the educated class fighting back. And my only issue is if the common man, and I said this months ago, if you ain't working as a cashier in a supermarket and ain't feel like this could got a negative effect on you, if you ain't coming up, if you ain't looking for an opportunity and feel like, bah, no, this is too much to pay, this ain't gonna work. If this is a battle between the elites, my Burnley gonna win.
As the saving grace for Nevis. And so when the video came out, I said, man, it's time that I did my video. So
sure.
That is the basis for my, that was my light moment. But that was the basis for it. I tell people that I think that all this thing needs to be investigated. I've shared that opinion, with close, because I don't speak to a lot of people, but with close friends, I've shared that opinion because I feel strongly about it, that this ought to be something that is taken up by the DPP's office, by some special prosecutor, and we need to find out the genesis of the Destiny, how it was introduced into our community, and how they sat back, how the man was able to sit back and wait until we got to the breaking point of being bankrupt, and now he's moving on us because
Shit about bankrupt. Is anybody saying that the NIA is gonna default on loans or anything of this nature? Is the NIA in that much trouble? Because maybe man what us talk about budget and all that kind of thing, but I just need to understand. Are we at the point where civil servants ain't getting paid on time and so are we in default mode? Because if we are not in default mode, even for me, cause I always tell her they don't got no money and things like. But this is within the context of, for example, this is where I could tell you the hospital, major stuff is very sensitive. I'm talking about you scratching and clawing. But is there something going on that I don't know, which is saying that civil servants not get paid? We are default on like we can't pay for years on them kind of thing. What I miss?
ideally that is the framework he was working with, because he would have laid it out in his public pronouncements and his public essays as to exactly what his vision was and how he was going to achieve it. He said he was looking for, and we cannot pretend like it's not out there. And the Premier is going along as if, well, we don't have all this background information to go on. It's as if, well, discount all of that. We don't want to hear anything about the fact that the man is libertarian or the fact that they want to have their own free society. We don't want to hear any of that. But that is something that we must put into the matrix. We must be able to examine that against what has happened, why we're up to this point. Because it seems to me that if we were to delve deep enough, then some level of bribery would have gone on there, because I can't see how people who have been elected to serve a community have not done anything.
Okay. You see what I want to know? And you see, I'm being critical of not even critical, but I just, not my style. But anyway, so Pat, you know, I'm gonna help you. I'm gonna help you double down. I'm gonna help you triple down. So we really gonna see who got it wrong with regards to this destiny situation. If you feel like an investigation needs to be done, here's what I'm gonna tell you to do, Pat. Okay? You promise that if you are elected, you will form a committee in Parliament to find out what the origins of the Destiny deal and if anything went on. Here we have again an allegation that, maybe some bribery went on. And at this point, I am so numb to the fact that politicians will say, well, that one you thief, that one you bribe, this, that. And you even hearing the fact that she ain't got no. She is just positing that by if I be looking at this year, somehow I be gonna find some bribery. And this lead me back to the conflict of interest. Me not feel like this, not necessarily bribe, bro. Just go back to what I said about the conflict of interest, and for me, I ain't seeing that. But Pat, if you feel like bribery is going on here, you make sure that you promise the people that you're going to form a committee to investigate this deal, and if there's anything found in the investigation to show anything nefarious, anything criminal, then you will be able to pass on the information to the adequate authorities, and maybe go a little further too. But Pat helping you
to live up to the mandate that they claim that they got from the general public, the voting public, based on their manifesto. They would have presented a set of promises to the people of Nevis and said, these are the things that we are promising, that we are going to deliver. They've made no attempt to deliver on any of those things. You still have the saga with the hospital. For how many years now you're keeping exact count. And you still have a lot of elements that have not been delivered from their manifesto. Yet all the monies that they've gotten their hands on have been used up, squandered, and we're at this stage now where people are really scared about the future of Nevis. And people are saying, girl, when you're getting...
If you do some minor work, you don't even do the work, but you could get somebody to do an analysis of the budget, and rather than saying that money has been squandered, you will actually point to the different projects to show where the money was squandered. It even got certain road projects that I specifically know of where you drive on the road and would put on a lake, whatever filling or whatever, and rain come, wash it away. And then a couple of weeks later, they got to fill them in again. All of them things that are cost overruns. But we're not. I suppose there's not a team that's doing that in this case.
Yeah, how you gonna manage, because we know the country is broke? How we gonna manage to get things back on track? Well, we're gonna have to find a way. We're gonna have to find a way to manage that. Now, we've had and I think something that was missing from the Destiny video was the updated offer, the updated bribe. Because initially they were saying, okay, well, Divisions, we could get them $30 a month, which works out to $1 a day. Depends on how many days in that month. Sometimes they're going to short you $1. But they're like, okay, well, these foolish people would accept $1 a day to be bribed to sign on to the Destiny thing. But they've been encountering a level of, I think, resistance that they did not anticipate. And so, in the last day after the video was released, they have now upped the ante, and they're now saying, well, forget about the 30 EC dollars that we had promised you, the $1 a day. We're going to increase it to 100 US. Now, we didn't do anything to deserve an increase, and I don't think anything has happened for them to start to get profit. But they're saying now they think it would be a more fair, proposal to us, or proposition, however you look at it, that they increase it to 100 US per month. Now, Dr. Daly floated on, and I don't like to.
Oh, that's the purpose of this analysis. First of all, one of the main purposes of this analysis is to show that when it comes to Alan, if he's a spade, I want it because is a spade. You see how much time I cut in. It's not like she getting no special treatment. But I have advocated and said that the goal certainly of any opposition is supposed to be to explain to the people their vision and why their vision would bring a positive impact to their life, would bring development, would bring stability, would bring economic prosperity. These are the things that the people want to hear. We are currently more than 20 minutes in this video, and you're not hearing a plan from Pat yet. You hear what Pat don't like, but we not hear what Pat gonna do yet. The party system is to keep us divided. Sir, that's an interesting perspective. Do you think that we would be better off in a one-party system? Are you advocating for a one-party system? I would tell you, like, you should do some research on the places that could lead, but I mean, it could be considered, I suppose.
Disagree, Dr. Daly. He has a point of view that is reasonable, and he has floated in social media the theory that he thought maybe that the deadline is fast approaching for them to start paying for the land acquisition that they had, proceeded to. Well, they started, I think, understand a couple of years ago.
Sir, I violently disagree with you with regards to the historical origins of both the Nevis Reformation Party and the CCM Party. I have information. Maybe I need to pass on that information that you need to contact me to decide. But I'm telling you, sir, you're severely incorrect. I'm not. Well, definitely. Well, we're not necessarily supposed to disagree. We can. I feel like in life we would end up agreeing to more things than we actually disagree upon. But with regards to the origins of NRP and CCM, if you could very quickly, if you want me, if you could tell me how NRP start, because I know how NRP start. You know, if you only go tell me one name and two words will tell me how NRP start. So if you could tell me the name or the two words, then we're gonna be in business and you're gonna understand that they no ain't no subsidizing, because you must know, if you know the history of politics. What I was seeing if you're gonna get me a little wiser, but what I would tell you is, in the history of politics of St. Kitts and Nevis, we got adult suffrage in 1952. That's when we started to run, and Labour was the only party in the federation at that moment in time. Labour used to run in Nevis as well. PAM was a reaction to Labour. And PAM, okay, all right, that's the business. You only got to tell me Christina disaster. And that now had nothing to do with the subsidizing, because what I wanted to let you know, PAM was a reaction to Labour. So PAM was Labour, you must understand, you right there in the name, you know. Labour supposed to represent the workers. So when we're talking about the sugar workers and them, this is where we get the Labour Party from. Anyway, Bradshaw, sugar worker, Labour, the Labour Union end up turning into the Labour Party, and Bradshaw elevate throughout that particular moment in time. Now the elites, as a reaction to the fact that the workers then getting together, farm PAM. So PAM was supposed to be like the party of the elites in SK, which of course ain't happening. That's why PAM is historically, it's tough for PAM down in a SK from a historical perspective, and they have not recognized this flaw up until this very moment. They still not recognize. No, what I want you to know is, when the Christina disaster happened, you could basically say NRP farm, that same day. And if you know anything again about the politics in a St. Kitts and Nevis, then in the manifesto only had basically two words, three. We want a secession. So there was no, from the very beginning, there were no connection points. At one point, PAM, definitely Labour too. I'm not gonna deny this to you, sir. But what I will tell you is, NRP made traction in the first election, and by the second election, NRP was winning the seats in a Nevis. By the third election, Labour gets so much of blows. Labour decided, nah, I mean, come back on Nevis. I hold up there. And by the early 70s, PAM also decided, but no, ain't gonna happen for us in a Nevis. So PAM run. At one point, the SKNLP has all the seats indeed, definitely. But what I'm attempting to tell you is that those times that you're speaking about, we definitely not dealing with the Nevis Reformation Party. And you know what should I correct myself with? I no, yeah. It would have had to been in the 70s, early 70s, Labour pull out, and then Pam would have pulled out in the later 70s, because NRP first election was the one after 1970, because Christina disaster in 1970. The Concerned Citizens Movement, I think they, even if you say, for instance, that Labour, because this is the story, and don't let nobody tell you no different. Labour is the one who gave assistance to the Concerned Citizens Movement for them to start. And how I could make sure that you understand that that is true. You got to remember that during the 80s, when it's time for coalition government, NRP choose PAM over Labour. Remember, this is how PAM get to be the ones who basically start the constitution. PAM pulled out because NRP was the counterweight they needed. Okay. So when you come to the reason why CCM start, you're going to understand that there was a lot of tension between NRP and Labour. There was no need to buy the calf if they had the cow. So as a result of that now, Labour end up and help CCM. But you need to understand that even though Labour helped them, CCM was an independent party from 1992. And once again, I'm going to demonstrate that that is a fact, because when you had the election 1993 and CCM had to pick, and they could have helped the team help them get in, they choose to be neutral. CCM is an afterthought and the late bloomer of the 80s. CCM is a result of Vance Amri ambition and good timing as well. You could say it's good politics to benefit half a Labour, get in, establish himself, and then he did not need Labour anymore. No such thing as an independent party. I'm not saying that it didn't change, you know, but why, if they were not independent, why didn't they choose a side in the 1993 election? When they not only could have choose a side, Van Zammer could have been the prime minister. Could have get at least 5 years. No, I disagree with you, sir. I disagree with you. If you want to stay neutral when you go get in, that got to be the definition of independent. That's why I'm not a fan of your thinking. Oh, that's why I'm. Well, thank you. But I hope you see, I say something and I also demonstrate with action on the ground to show you, well, this is what I mean. By is many reasons. I read about it extensively. Many reasons. I don't know, boy. Van say he promised Nevis people that he not gonna do it. And I would have gone back to Nevis people and said, boy,
No,
could be the prime.
not the last year that they're telling us now that they just now started to buy land last year. But some people have been able to show that they've been in contact with them before that and have been they're holding agreements on that merit. And so he has floated the theory out there that, well, because the 30th of April is coming up, And that is the deadline, he's saying, for the acquisition of these lands. That would mean that they now have to commit to somewhere in the region of $600 million. And his theory is that that is the reason why they're so desperate.
But listen, we really got to tie this out, you know. Remember the caliber of politicians he had to deal with. No. Hear what I'm telling you that you are doing. What you are doing is that you're giving Dougie the power. What Dougie not had yet. Remember, this is Denzel Douglas who never been nothing neither, you know. It's not like Terrence or Harris. No, man. I disagree with you, I tell you. We're not dealing with the Denzel Douglas what we don't know. What Denzel Douglas would go on to be. The Denzel Douglas what we're talking about is a very different human. And Vance Amory does not strike me like the type of man to be intimidated. Vance always cool and calm. So even if you're going with things, he not gonna get to Vance. And me not think you ever put no hand on Vance neither.
No, even after they would have produced their video, they're coming now to add some extra perks to what is promised to the people of St. Kitts Nevis. So I could imagine that if they'd let loose this information before the video, then those people on the video would have been dancing and not just talking. So it might have been a musical. So he's floated that. However, my theory, and I'm going to stick to my theory because, it's on the premise of what I already laid out, that, it was, carefully planned. And the premier would have been rubbing his hands together like he normally does.
Gleefully.
Gleefully, right?
Something coming down the pipe.
Yes, and it's coming together. He has said before, the plan is coming together. And so I imagine that he's doing likewise, in this scenario, in that his thing is coming, his plan is coming together. But my theory is more related to what is going on.
It's hard for you to accept. Sir, come on, man. I already described what he did. I'm talking about in a previous show, of course, but listen, it was definitely an error in judgment. What I am speaking about, but to move forward, we need to keep accounts and not receipts. The only thing, these men were all fundamentally flawed. All men are fundamentally flawed, sir. This is the difference between men and gods. So, we never supposed to hold them within the esteem of feeling as though they are not flawed individuals. It would be a mistake for any of us to imagine that is the case. This is why we should also build a scenario and an environment where people go take chances. But we need to see that people also correspond. And how they respond, as you say, will they take accountability? Will they slide it off? So I would always say that that mistake that Vance made was an error in judgment. The thing that I was more telling you about is the intimidation factor. I am not convinced that that Vance Amory is gonna be intimidated. I can't get it believed.
No, in the Middle East, as we are well aware, the United States and Israel are engaged in a war against Iran. And so that has implications for energy, particularly oil coming out of the Middle East. And so on the world stage, it's already affecting us. Globally, it's likely to cause some economic disruptions that a lot of us are not prepared for. And so I think it is on that basis that they maybe on let's deal with Jansen's first, the libertarian who wanted to create this society that the premier is now finally admitting is going to be an enclave.
Yeah, he said
or
that.
enclave or enclave, whatever you want to call it. So he has now admitted that. And I think that it took some doing. I mean, I know that Banky is not a professional. He's an amateur in the journalist field. And for an amateur to get to that point, to get that kind of admission out of the premier, I'm asking, what happened to the seasoned and,
But you can't run away in a life and not hear about Banky.
journalists who have been out there and they can't get those kind of admissions out of the thing, the premier? Is it that they don't want to probe deep enough? But anyway, Banky as amateur as he is, and that is not any discourtesy to Banky. It's just to say that Banky is good even though he doesn't have the formal training and he's not professionally recognized as such. But that is an aside. So, the instability in the Middle East and now the Dubai style settlement that Johnson was pushing, this is not ideal time for him to sell his product. So I think that he wants to move now to capitalize on that, because you realize that Dubai has been under attack. And so those people, those billionaires, they don't want to be in those kind of environments where they have to be ducking and hiding from missiles coming in.
Pause this to read this. Actually, Pans told Labour he have to go back to the people. He will go back to them. But Billy Herbert sent the Coast Guard for Parry and took him to governors and got Pam NRP government in power. So that is not that maybe it's because you have a limited amount of characters that you are describing it in that way. But I promise you, from the information that I have, it was actually an extensive circumstance. The Governor General waited on Vance Amri for a significant period of time, and it was only due to the fact that he had refused for so long. And this thing is like show business, the show got to go on. And the Governor General decided, therefore, to put in a minority government rather than other fresh elections. So, I mean, that's as far as I see. As I say, I got the information. If you contact me, I could send you and you could peruse it. And nice history of Sinkis and Evis politics.
And so, likely alternative is for Johnson now to get these people on board. Those who might have been reluctant to jump on board, even though he said he was going to create an area that is free from crime, for them to be able to, luxuriate in. He has now got a feather in his cap in that if he could get this destiny thing going, now is a good time for him to say, here is a safe environment. Over here in the Western Hemisphere, nothing going on over here.
I don't know. Why are you making? Can you explain how was CCM was able to take over the reins from NRP? How did that shift happen, especially as a new party for those who missed that period? I'm gonna try to be as concise as possible. I think in my analysis, of course, I have the benefit of looking back and not judging it as it was happening. I feel like, and that's why I went over earlier and tell you about NRP wanted secession. NRP lose steam because of the origin objective. He said give him until 7 p.m., but Billy didn't want that. Remember that Billy was the listen. I'm not arguing with you 7 p.m. and all them story there, What I am explaining to you is this was not a one-day circumstance. Huh? Election results come in, and he had days pass, time pass, and Vance not come with no answer. So I wouldn't tell you that ultimately that maybe there was some ultimatum who say we coming for you. But I'm telling you, they went to him repeatedly. Well, it's not only them. Let me tell you what happened for some. It's not just Labor went to CCM, Pam went to them too. The Governor General tried to talk to Vance. News reporters tried to talk to Vance. You know how much of people tried to talk to Vance? Ted Hobson been on the radio speaking about the situation. All of these things in it. Just listen. We gonna go get back to that, As I tell you, I got the information. Just give me a buzz and I forward it to you, and you take your time and go through it. But with regards to why CCM was able to take over, if the objective of the Nevis Reformation Party is to get secession from Sinkits, not this. You are okay. All right then. All right. Listen. All right. Fair enough. Um. Major. Listen. I'm moving on. So you could, however you think. Remember, you're not even taking me document or not. No. But you ask how CCM take over. NRP start because they want secession. The CM party was say you want secession. End up in the federal government. End up with a constitution what give them a local government. And I don't feel like the party had an alternative, let me see, objective purpose beyond that. So essentially, NRP serve a purpose. They've been they've been one secession, but overall they get better a better situation for Nevis. So throughout the 80s, the party were coming, as I say, the whole identity is we want secession. He had a gathering in Nevis on a Sunday in 1976. I forget the date specifically. When all Nevis people went to the park because they been want secession so bad. So when you want secession, but then you end up in the federal government, you can't access secession again. So in my estimation now, CCM was the party what could have come and say, well, they kind of anti. So CCM kind of was the one who pick up that torch there, and so that you could see that is facts. And CCM bring the 113, the secession vote in 1998. And why was Vance reluctant in taking part? Prime Minister Arthur was he's scared that his prime ministership would have lived short. So it ain't all true that a man from Nevis can get prime ministership. Ultimately, I would get to say that there was some kind of fear. But alternatives to that is the story where I tell you with regards to the fact that he, and you also said the same thing. He said he have to go back to Nevis people because he promised Nevis people that he's not gonna get involved in the government. And this is what I'm trying to tell you. Nevis parties. Here's what you need to understand. Nevis parties get the personality from Sinkitt's politics. Even when you look at the rise of Mark Brantley, how he get his rise by coming in and telling you he's the man we're going to fight Douglas. He's the man we're gonna get Douglas out of there. Yeah. So Sinkit's parties have historically gotten their identity from opposition to Sinkit's politics and not necessarily a focus on the upliftment and where we could put this ship in a direction to advance Nevis. It's never been about that. It's been a kind of say we're gonna be opposed to SK. This federal administration, this is the very first time that Nevisions have gone down into parliament in a SK and just them like everything was going on. It never happened before. Anyway, Pat, is back to you.
Is he, and I'm going to try and keep them separate since that is what their public pronouncement is, that they are separate in terms of their dealings in the area. But we are aware that, and it has been in social media, about the meetings that Roger Ver would have had in Nevis as it relates to cryptocurrency. And so, as it relates to the energy costs going up in the Middle East, you realize that cryptocurrency uses a lot of energy. It is what you call a high energy industry. And so the cost of doing business for crypto mining is likely to go sky high around a time like this if there's no immediate relief from what is going on in the Middle East. There are some governments who have decided that they're going to release some of their reserve oil, but that can't go anywhere because there was one commentator who I understood to say, and it sounded credible. I didn't check it with AI, but he's like the 400 million barrels of oil that they claim that they're going to release, that is consumed in 3 days because it's 1 point something billion gallons being used every day. So that is not going to go anywhere. It's not sustainable. So it means that after that, prices already soaring. It's not likely to make impact on the cost of doing business as it relates to things like crypto mining. And so that is why I think maybe with the energy cost implications for crypto, that is why the VA part of the equation might want to move right now in order to make sure that they get our geothermal going, they can get cheap energy, and they can sell that as well. So they section off, imagine, if you may, they section off 2,400 acres of Nevis, and they start to do crypto mining. They need water to cool. So it means that they're going to be drawing on our reserves. They already took our lands. They're going to start using our geothermal, and then they're going to use our water. So these are things that we have to start to be mindful of. And so NRP has...
This is kind of interesting. I have not heard anything about our crypto business. Don't have your number anymore. I would hit you up. But send me a message on Facebook. I mean, tell you all kind of different ways this thing can work out. But anyway, this... I have been saying for the longest time, I don't see the business aspect. They keep on telling me about they're going to get 10,000 residents out there. If they plan to put a server out there and do some crypto mining, I don't necessarily have a problem with that beyond the water. But my thing is, however they plan to get money over there, right? However they plan to get money over there, I would just like to have some divisions on the money side. I mean, just talk about odds and ends work. You know what I'm saying? Construction and them type of situations there. But I'm talking about if they're gonna do some mining over there, I would like if they set up something and could start to teach some people here how to mine. Just some there must be an exchange of technology and an acquisition of skills. That's my overall thing. But I have not heard about this crypto story. This is the first mayor.
Always been saying that there could be alternative uses for the lands over there. The premier and his people have been saying, well, what NRP going to do? But the thing is, they're not listening because we've been saying that we have a plan for the area. And the plan didn't just surface now. We have the first time anybody in Nevis would have heard about a plan for the South Coastal Road would have been on the NRP side. Mind you, I was not listening very keenly and closely at that time when Dr. Daly was making the case, but he's the one I would credit that it came out of his mouth at that time since 2017 or thereabouts. And so it is not a novel position, this idea that the South Coast ought to be developed, because we've always recognized over there as the next, what you call it, frontier, development frontier for Nevis. So we've said to the Premier, and I want to reiterate, that NRP has a plan for the development. And we're talking about sustainable development for Nevis, not sustainable development for some foreign entity or a
Oh, yeah, Alan, it's ironic you mentioned that protest in town in Farmer Grove Park. Indeed, sir. In 1976, I can attest to that. I remember my parents making placards. I probably held one up myself. I'm telling you. They say like it's only like old people being home that day. They say everybody went tongue over this secession story and over basically the treatment. Because you gotta remember the Christina disaster affect Nevis proportionately more than St. Kitts, because is Nevis had on the farmers who were going on go sell their produce. So we were affected more. And when you look at the circumstances of the boat on that particular day, it was disaster. And they will link the cryptocurrency with geothermal, and that will become the East Caribbean currency dollar. We're not hearing from the ECCB Bank or the regulators say anything about that. So you're saying our currency is gonna be backed by geothermal? If that is the case, I would like you to know that Dominica, who started with the geothermal after Abbey, is supposed to be soon ready to open up one of the plants. So if the ECCB got anything like that cooking, I don't think that they would be waiting necessarily on. I don't think that they would be waiting on Nevis. And in addition to that, if the ECCB got so much of stakes in this, man, after all the profits what Dr. Joe said I make last year, then they should actually put in something, because it would seem to me that that would be in to their benefit. But this is the first time I'm hearing that. I'm gonna do some investigation to hear how that would work out.
group. We can't just cede our lands to people on that side and say, you take care of that, because we couldn't manage to put a road that would lead to the development in that area. And so we are saying again and reiterating, we understand the potential that the south part of Nevis presents to Nevis. And we have a plan to make sure that we capitalize on that for the benefit of the people of Nevis. We cannot take off 2,400 acres, give it to a foreign entity, and then say, well, you don't have to pay any taxes. What madness is that? So you mean we can't develop over here? What we own, we have to stick to what we own now. There's no potential for us to move out after that. So we are saying no to that. We are saying that NRP is a plan, and the first order of business you would do.
Okay, so I want to make sure that I'm following this plan correctly, okay? Now, from what I'm hearing from Ms. Bartlett, they are opposed to the plan because this is the frontier for Nevis. So that if there is any expansion of the population of Nevis, one of the natural places she feel like people could go is over there. And okay, fair enough. If that's what you want to do. So I think now we are at the planning stage. While I'm here, I keep on telling you this. Singapore is the size of St. Lucia. The island of Dominica is larger than the island of Singapore. Singapore is home to 6 million people, while when you look at Dominica, I don't think Dominica is at 100,000 people. Singapore passed a law the other day that say you could build 60-story skyscrapers. Okay? We are still saying in Nevis, build two. Build two. I am saying this because one of the solutions to the premier problem is also gonna, well, and not just the premier problem, to any politician, because Dr. Joe also wants a bigger population. If this population is gonna explode in the ways that they're speaking about, the building code gonna got to change. And some of the space where we want gonna be up in the air. But anyway, Pat is saying this is the frontier, and NRP got a plan from over there. No one to know that the plan is a old plan, but she might have some new twists. She gave credit to Dr. Daly as the originator of this plan. And I must say, in 2017, I'm still against the development of the South Coast, personal. I got personal reasons for that. And I opposed this plan into when Dr. Well, this is going to be 2020. I mean, I think Daly run in the local election. It's the federal election. I only oppose it because Daly ain't had no plan on who be in government. Daly said he would do it fine in the opposition, and that can't work. But overall, even against my personal feelings of not developing over there, I could see how over there could be developed in certain aspects.
Is to make sure that we establish the road. We have to invest in a road on the south coast of Nevis that would give the people in that area who have lands a fair chance for development. And so these are the kind of things that we have, and I want you to stick with me. As it relates to geothermal, it must be done simultaneously because one can't be lagging behind the other. Because we want, when we invite people to come, we are ready. We are ready for those businesses that would catapult Nevis to the next level.
You want me to ask the caller to hold?
No, go ahead.
Go ahead.
Yeah.
All right, let's take this caller. Good evening, caller. Welcome to Your Voice with Dr. Patricia Bartlett.
Good evening, Mr. Manners.
Lift that voice, please. Lift that voice.
Good evening, Mr. Manners.
Hi, good evening.
Dr. Bartlett.
Good evening.
I am concerned, I'm very concerned about these people who is promoting destiny. First, I'm looking at some of the gentlemen who I think are grandfathers, and they're talking about getting jobs. And I'm wondering if they're not thinking about their grandchildren. They are entitled to a piece of the rock. When we are gone, Nevis still belongs to us. We still are leaving our relatives and loved ones back here. And when you give away that amount of land, what is going to be happening to our own people? I'm hopeful that these older guys who are promoting this destiny thing would take a second look and recognize that while we are going off stage, there are people who are coming on stage who would call us granddad and grandma. Therefore, we owe it to them to leave them a piece of the rock. Anyway, I am going back to this destiny thing with this $100 monthly. I looked and I looked and I looked, and I don't remember seeing anybody signature to that money. And I recall some years ago, $1 million was offered. And we know who offered it. And we know what it was for. It was for education. Letters you must write nobody see a dollar. Nobody get a dollar. And we knew who promoted it. But now, I didn't remember seeing Jensen's name to nothing. And you know what happened? If this project is to come forward, he does not owe us nothing because he did not even respect us in as much as to have a conversation. I think that is very, very, very insulting. Not even a conversation. He throws something out there and he uses a few people, and I'm almost certain, what should I say? I believe some money might have been paid for this advertisement. We deserve better than this. We could do better than this. This is not what our foreparents fought for.
Me kind of try work out something with the advertisement. Yeah. We can't even maintain our road where we live, but must go be like over this outside. Listen, all of these are things what me try to tell people. We could build up the capacity and the interior of the island. And let over there remain a frontier, in my estimation. I don't see the rush to do this at this particular moment in time. If we didn't have geothermal, 'cause that's the one thing why I disagree with Pat is she say you got to do the roads and geothermal at the same time. I disagree. I do not feel like we appreciate how much money is necessary for geothermal. Because one thing we must understand when we look at the geothermal that is happening over time, we constantly go into different institutions and different avenues to go get money. You are not hearing how much the NIA is putting into geothermal, because there is no money to put into geothermal. It's just like how it's a mistake to be to pretend you want to do geothermal, hospital, airport, and destiny right now. It's just a very difficult task, as far as I see from the budget allocations.
We have to look beyond us and the weirdness and recognize that Nevis belongs to the people of Nevis, and we on the stage can go off and let the young people take over. We owe it to them, and I'm hoping that this man who wants to offer $100 understand that everybody spending US dollars now. So that is not going to threaten nobody in Nevis. We want what is ours. You keep what belongs to you. Let us keep what belongs to us. This is a bit of desperation, and give me a little time because I want to bang me out tonight. This is a bit of desperation. You come with a 5%, I don't even know if you're going to be making a profit. And that doesn't work. Our election is in the air, you know. An election is in the air. And so this is more than destiny. This is for us to sign up. Well, not us, but them to sign up. And I hope it's only the people who was advertising this thing. For them to sign up, and yes, we can get 100 years. You realize what is happening? You start to get it after. After. Not now, but after. Well, let me go before. Because Destiny and Jensen was around, and he's a Nivijana, you say he is. And he's a multimillionaire, they say he is. When nobody told him that we had COVID even. And everybody was struggling, tooth, mum and bagay, left us out and go give the hospital some sheets. Left us out and go and give some help to the education department. He had the plans all the time, and he never offered a thing. Now you know what he's doing? He is throwing a sprat to catch a whale. Well, I hope that sprat never catch nothing but on seaweed. Good night and goodbye.
Good night.
Plenty seaweed around.
Yes. So, yeah, well said, caller. And so just to continue, on the plans that we have, like we said, we'll have to develop geothermal, and we'll have to find the resources. We have to make a way. Dominica, and maybe you guys could just hold it, call it as finish, and then we deal with that.
Let's take this
Okay.
one, and then after this one, we'll ask people to hold until we give you the indication to call. But caller, go right ahead. Caller, go right ahead.
Yeah. Good night. Yeah. It is not destiny. No. This is desperation now. No?
Uh-huh.
This is desperation now. You see the man been fooling us since 2015, 2017, when he said he going to turn on the switch 2017 for Joe Thomas, you know.
Mm-hmm.
So the investors was out there all the time, but they was investing the land. You see, and the land was investing. So now everything coming to light. That's why they didn't want no road to come through there. That's why he refused to put the road there. You know? Remember, he sang and danced with all kind of gibberish. Refused to put the road through for the people, but they're collecting the people and tax every year for the land. But they refuse to put it there. So they ain't gonna do navies like how they do in Nicaragua and them. We are accustomed to money with no money. So they ain't gonna come and sugarcake us with a little $100 like we are accustomed to. People hold on to higher land and I think a better plan for Nevis people and the future of Nevis generation them. Destiny no got no kind of plan for us. No kind of plan is the worst thing will ever come to Nevis. You hear? So people hold on to Ireland. Don't study Donald Trump of Nevis. And he do rub in his hand because he know what he getting in his hand. Ain't nothing for Nevis people because he do not like Nevis people. So I'm going to listen up here. I'll call back again.
Okay, thank you. Caller?
Well, yeah. Well, it seems to be a hot topic, so if people want to call, let us just entertain.
Okay,
yeah,
we'll do that. We'll do that. We won't put a hold on you.
No restrictions.
Keep the flow going.
Yeah, because we can't just be the only ones who are passionate against this, and so we have to give people the opportunity to air their views, because we did say it was an interactive show.
Yeah.
But in the interim, while we're waiting for the other callers, let us just move on. So the justification for making sure that we have geothermal ready when we have the road is because we want to be able to expand that area in short order. We don't want anybody to say, well, Destiny would have done it in 2 years and we're taking 10 years. And of course, our term is only 5 years, and we're going to have to make sure that we show what we are worth. And so we are going to have to reach out to those development initiatives that are generally looking for a place that could provide cheap energy. And so that is what geothermal really ought to do. It ought to be able to facilitate us, to facilitate investors from outside to come in, particularly places people who are seeking to establish like data centers. That is something that is in high demand nowadays. Those centers, they consume a hell of a lot of energy. And so if we are to get geothermal, we would be competitive. Right now, we can't attract those businesses, and those are the higher paying businesses.
She in about 5 minutes ago questioned the fact that Destiny come over there go do crypto mining. Is she aware that servers are also heavy consumers of water? What is happening? Anyway, that's it, Alan. The landowners on the south side, if they are so against the project, why don't they boycott it? Boycott it. Is there an out clause in the agreement that they can explore? Well, my understanding, well, first of all, we already know that some persons are not taking part, and this is why some persons have been targeted to say that these are the landowners with the majority of the land. So we definitely know that there are some people holding out. With regards to people who have signed the contract, I think you're in, unless there is anything. Okay, for example, I think Pat would have referenced and said that there's a time stipulation. So, for example, I think everybody was paid 1%. Now, the rest percentage of the payments would have to be paid when either certain conditions are met, like for example, the government approves the deal, or on a time basis. So, for example, and you're going to start to make incremental payments of X percentage within a year, whatever is the case. So unless something was triggered, and I haven't seen one of the agreements personally, but unless there's something in there that say, well, and if you don't pay me by this, then the deal is off, then that would be the circumstance by which they could say. So if there's something in there that say you got to pay me 10% by the 1st of April, or the contract is terminated, then at that moment in time, you would be able to say, well, okay, all right, we ain't gonna move forward with this.
And that is just because we do not have cheap energy, because fossil fuel is what drives our economy up to this point. Still, even in the face of all the activities that would have been done, all the ribbon cuttings and all that they would have done for geothermal, we still have not advanced. People have already passed us. Dominique already passed us. Munster already passed.
Well, that's still not take away from my point, you know. Pat, you can't come out here and criticize the premier and say, well, they ain't got to crypto mining over there, and you know how much of water that they will use, and then turn around 5 minutes later and tell me, well, maybe we need to put some computer servers over there. You got to familiarize with yourself that the amount of water you take to cool down the servers is also a massive requirement, unless you're going the Chinese route. And if you're not on board, it may just say you're not the Chinese route.
Thus, in the overall scheme of things, we are lagging behind. But we need to catch up and catch up fast, but we need to get serious about it. We recognize that the Premier is not being serious about it. He was trying to divert so that he can get a different game changer, and we understand the personal benefit that could be derived for that particular family out of the Destiny experience. And so we understand why he's pushing that, but we have to be pushing something that could substitute for that. And so we can also reach out to those people who want to do crypto mining, because this is something we need a reset.
This woman literally, talk about the fact that how much water is gonna be used if then Destiny people are going to crypto mining, and then she plans to come out and.
We're not saying that we would discourage the activities of a crypto mining company. So if VIA wanted to have a discussion with us, we would be open to facilitating VIA once we have the control over geothermal and offer him the low electricity that he's seeking.
Hold on there. Listen, let me push about this. What she just said, VIA or VIA? When she said VIA, who she talking about? Raja VIA? It can't be. It can't be.
We can also reach out to those people who want to do crypto mining, because this is something we need a reset. We are not saying that we would discourage the activities of a crypto mining company. So if VIA wanted to have a discussion with us, we would be.
VIA, she is saying, no? Raja VIA. Ladies and gentlemen, let me ask you an iron question. I feel like right now, Pat is having a heart attack. It would be a heart attack. I feel like right now, Pat is having a stroke, and I've been know about it. Wouldn't this be the Raja VIA who has been vilified by NRP throughout this process of Destiny? Is Pat suggesting that they would reach out to Raja VIA to see if he could do some crypto mining? What is happening right now? Jesus.
Open to facilitating VIA once we have the control over geothermal and offer him the low electricity that he's seeking, then crypto mining is something that could help us, that could be a game changer in EVIS. But we ought to be able to control it. We can't just say, well, you give you a piece of land and that is yours, and we don't get anything back from those activities. And of course, we're talking about tourism as well. We ought to be able to expand our tourism facilities over in that area. And we're talking about hotels and villas.
Okay, let me
So, whereas in the past couple of years, our people on island or developers here have been suffocated by this Vantley administration just to facilitate the crash so that Destiny could move in. We are saying, no, we're going to give Dion Daniel the opportunity to realize his vision, because he had a vision in the area and he already had plans and everything. He was moving ahead. All he wanted was some government support to say, yes, okay, we'll help you. And
okay, okay. No. Okay. Vibes. Different vibes. No. This is where Pat, if she wasn't having a stroke before, she is certainly having a stroke at this particular moment. Ladies and gentlemen, one of the things that the Nevis Reformation Party has spoken about with regards to this project is the fact that the Brantley family is just winning out the game for this project. Here comes Pat with her plan. And Pat plan, we don't go on over some of the things. So some of the things then what we just noticed as well is that she want to talk about everything. She not just want to talk about the development. She want to talk about geothermal. She want to talk about tourism. She not lay out that day. And then, and when I say lay out that day, if we speaking about the development of the South Coast, I feel like the first thing what we need to do is to lay out and say, this how I be, this is how we gonna look. We depend the road, we gonna mention how we not only gonna do a coastal road, but we gonna make it so that it could connect up to the villages and so that it feel like a one Nevis and them thing there. After you done establish that now, for me, that's when you're going to the other things. But we going here, we come back out. We going there, we come back out. Video boy, that one make me try. Let me see what going on. So see if this is something in a my settings. No, it's not nothing in a my settings. See if I could increase my volume here. So nope, my volume is up. My volume. Well, maybe I just try something else there, but it is up. Part one coming in here with his story, which is an old story. And mind you, and I be one to say, the Brantley family is getting fat. And here we go with Pat's story. She would like to support Dion Daniel. Who is Dion Daniel? Dion Daniel is the brother of Janice Daniel Hodge. Okay? I wanna increase my gain. So, maybe I hope I sound a little clearer. Maybe it was the mic itself. Maybe press something, but no, hopefully I sound a little better right now. But Pat can come and NRP can come with all of these up and down message. You can cuss Roger V upon one end and say, no, CCM can't work with Roger V. And then turn back around and say, but we would offer Roger V something. Don't tell me he's a criminal except when he work with you. And don't tell me Mark want get fat. And but sorry about that, boy. Uh, sorry about that. But don't tell me that Mark want to get fat and the Brantley family want to get fat, and then turn around and tell me, we want to support Dion Daniel because he have a vision over there. You know how much of different developers you could have name over there? You know, You got young people in your constituency who into architecture and all kind of thing that you could have shine a light on all of them there. And the person who will be you choose who can go tell me about the plan one Nevis need to fall behind. The people them who we need to uplift is Dion Daniel. What the hell is this? This can't be good. This can't be good. This ain't coherent. I don't know what the hell is this here. So. Except for the fact that Patricia Bartlett is clearly having a stroke, and Mr. Manners has no idea what to do. Mr. Manners not help him, boy. But Mr. Manners do better than me. I would not have been able to compose myself with all of them things there taking place. You just simply cannot do it. It's not how the game is played. And this, well, this is going to be my final thought. NRP, in my estimation, is not coherent. There is not one solid message. There is somehow a feeling that if you got a message and you repeat it, that ain't gonna work. And in my estimation, the only reason the message ain't gonna work is because if the message is cussing, in our work. If the message is inconsistent with regards to the attacks where you make by other people, it ain't gonna work. And if the message is not projecting a vision that is going to positively benefit Nevis people and to put them on a trajectory which is higher than the one that they are now, so that they got more stability, more economic prosperity, it ain't gonna work. And you're gonna lose, and you're gonna say them cheat you, and you're gonna go court and you're gonna lose again, but ain't got nothing to do with the court and nothing like that. So it's these inconsistencies in my mind that are doing some of the greatest damage. Anyway, ladies and gentlemen, went a little bit overboard tonight, a little over time. I hope that most people are well. Certainly well, me the only City fan in a Nevis, so I am certainly well. But for the Arsenal fans, I hold that until I go come back to me. You know, I hope I feel bad for a long time, certainly at least the next 2 weeks. I will see y'all again next week, Monday. Maybe we're going to do a little Iran update. This war is doing unimaginable harm to our pockets. But anyway, we're gonna get back to it. Get back at it next week with some more topics. Check out tomorrow. You know, no, tomorrow is everything. I say tomorrow. Tomorrow is the topics. And then there is everything agriculture on Friday. Hope everybody stays safe, and I will see you all next week. Jesus love you.
Reach nowhere, so you have to find a way. Them no want you reach nowhere, so you have to find a way. Them no want to see you rich, them will love to see you in a ditch. Them no want to see you panto.
We should be doing that. We're always talking about public private partnerships. This is a good opportunity for us to be able to do that.
I'll come back and answer you. I was a Manchester City fan from when they win the first title, boy. Me talk about the first title in modern times. This is a Mancini time. And I must tell you, me not no old school nothing. It's just the fact that my father back Manchester City, my brother, me say Man City, United, my brother back United, Antsman back United. Everybody wanna me back United. So when me see the little team come through and broke United hard, I say, you ain't my overall team. But over in England, to be an iron, yeah. I like Manchester City. Anyway, more times, people.
Energy, love, charity, what a sight to see, what a sight to see, what a colossal. Working and working to prosper. What you gonna stop for? Keep on, it's right on the corner. Hey, make me when I'm weird there. Hey, tell it you to them stay there. Hey, that is your destiny. To be what you ought to be. Even if no one you reach nowhere. So you have to find a way. Them no one you reach nowhere. So you have to find a way. Them no one to see you fly.